or the criteria that we often lecture that we often set classify the organisms. Said that we always need to do one thing. First, we always need to do one thing, classify the organism, and that is understanding the cell structure. And why is that? Because I very clearly stated that when we are going to convert, when we are going to put the organism, is the very first category that we often is the domain, or you can say type of life. So that very first category depends on the understanding of cells. So it means that our understanding of cells are now making the three categories of life. One is prokaryotic, second, eukaryotic, and we are well familiar about these cells. We don't have to do any discussion about it. The third is the archaea, which we don't need to talk about on this name. Okay, now let's see. Remember, I told you when I was telling you about the cells, I told you that uh, the prokaryote, the prokaryote is the category in which many organisms could be categorized. Or maybe let's talk about another category, eukaryotic. Now, let's name those organisms which can be differentiated on this base. Okay, what kind of organism do you think we should be categorizing in prokaryotes?
Your audio is very distorted.
Okay, since when?
Like I can hear you, but it's like very. I can just hear words and not the complete sentence.
Okay, I hope it should be better now. It should be better. Is it?
Yeah, it's a bit better.
Okay, let me ask you a question here. The question I have asked. The question was that there are two major categories, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So obviously, we need to start categorizing the organisms. So what do you think? What kind of organisms we can categorize in the prokaryotic category?
The organisms that we can categorize.
Organisms which we can categorize in the prokaryotic category. So what
So
can,
something like an amoeba.
in
Some
prokaryotic category,
something that lacks a nucleus.
yes, obviously, something that lacks in interest, and the only kind of organism that lacks in nucleus are bacteria. Is my voice smooth now?
Yeah.
The only kind of organisms that lack an nucleus are bacteria. So sometimes we use the word bacteria in place of prokaryotes. And the other time we use the word prokaryotes in place of bacteria. Why? There is no other organism in the prokaryotic category than bacteria, not no other than bacteria. So definitely it means that the prokaryotic category, the prokaryotic domain of life only caters, or you can say only categorizes bacteria. And why? Because of nucleus, because of being similar, but that is a category that is also present in bacteria. And then they are decomposers and many other characteristics are there. And we must know that on the basis of that as well, categorize these organisms to this category. Next is eukaryotes. Now, What kind of organism do you think? Okay, now you need to know one thing very clearly. We have separated, we have classified the bacteria from all other living forms. Why? The very first criteria of our classification was the cellular organization. And cellular organization is prokaryotic, eukaryotic, and archaea, or you can say we have divided the different organisms on the basis of domains. In what domain they categorize. And bacteria are now separated from the rest of all the organisms on the basis of what? On the basis of the prokaryotes, the bacteria are separated. Now comes the eukaryote. Okay, what eukaryotic organism you can name?
Um, so eukaryotic organisms is humans, sorry. Um, any cells inside the human or the plant.
Can you name any group in one just one of that? Can you name any group of organisms?
Mammals.
Okay, you are close, but not that close. Animal, then plants, then and then the last one, protoplasts. All organisms other than bacteria are eukaryotes. It means that the very first category, on the basis of you needed to separate the bacteria from the rest of the organism, was prokaryotic category. That is done. Now you don't need to classify the bacteria anymore because they are separated. The bacteria is a total different domain of life. Total different domain of life. What different? That is why they are now different. Yes, in eukaryotes, there are multiple types of eukaryotes. And we know that what are the differences between animals and plants on the basis of their cells. But now we also need to know one thing that what similar characteristics they all are sharing. What similar characteristics they all are sharing.
The living things.
And
Um,
in eukaryotic, they all are eukaryotic, right?
yeah.
So this is a similar feature between that they all are atoms. So it means they all are sharing. You know, in the end of the previous class, I told you that we start from the less similar group and we move towards more similar. So being eukaryote, they all are same. They all are eukaryote. So they are sharing one common feature. But if they are sharing one common feature, why we are naming them different? We are naming them differently because we observe differences between. We are naming them differently, but we observe differences between them. That is why we are naming them. Otherwise, being eukaryote, they all are same. They all are same. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So being eukaryotic, you would say that it is a similarity. It is a similarity. But what are the differences? Okay, now the criteria, the very first criteria of classification was what? The very first criteria of classification was that whether the organisms are prokaryotes or eukaryotes. So that criteria is finished. Why? You can use it. These organisms are prokaryotes, these organisms are eukaryotes, that's all. On what basis we are going to classify the rest of them? I'm repeating what I'm trying to say. That the very first criteria that we had to classify the organism was that whether the organisms are prokaryotes or now we have used that criteria. Since we have used that criteria, so what other criteria we can utilize to classify the rest of the organisms? All right, like if I ask to classify on these three groups on the basis of one feature. What is the meaning of my question? My question means that use any criteria, one criteria that is different in all of them, or maybe use one criteria that differentiates one group from the these these three marked groups. These are three marked groups that I have marked here. You need to classify this this particular list of groups in the way that one group separates from the rest of them.
The organelles inside the organisms, the different organelles.
There are many overlapping organelles. The eye takes the cell wall. Now it's also the cell wall. The eye atmosphere grants them. There are one or two more features that we can consider.
I can't hear you. Your voice is very distorted again.
Okay, I hope it would work better now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Your mic is off.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so the criteria on which we can separate these organisms from each other is the mode of what is the
It's a distorted again. It's very like bad quality audio.
okay? What about
Oh, it's still distorted.
should we start it? Hello, better or no?
No, still the same.
Okay, so, hear me? Is it still starting?
Yeah.
Okay, what about now or still not?
I can hear you, but it's like very hard to understand.
Okay, what about now? Is it better?
Yeah, yeah, it's better.
Okay, so the criteria on which we can separate these organisms, the single criteria that would help us in separating these organisms is their mode of nutrition. Why am I saying this? Because mode of nutrition basically means that how they acquire their nutrients, acquire their nutrients. That is the most important thing that would help us to differentiate between these organisms. The previous criteria was that how we are able to differentiate them on the basis of being prokaryote and eukaryote, and that criteria of classification was fulfilled. Now we are using the criteria of nutrition, how they acquire their nutrients. So acquiring of nutrients is of two types. One kind of organisms are supposed to be called as autotrophs. Autotrophs. What are autotrophs? Auto means self and troph means nutrition. The organisms that are independent for their nutrition. Independent for their nutrition. That is called as these kinds of organisms are autotrophs. Okay, can you tell me what kind of organisms are independent for their nutrition?
Um, Organisms that are independent.
Independent. They don't dependent upon any other organism.
Um, I'm not sure.
Eat other organisms.
I'm not sure what they're called.
Okay. No, out of this group, out of these groups, what kind of organisms do you think that they don't have to eat other ones? They can make their own food. Make their own food. Still no clue?
No.
The only organisms that can make their own food are plants. You know the process of photosynthesis? What
Yes.
does it tell us?
That plants can create food for themselves without relying on other organisms.
Yes, that is the that the plants are autotrophs and rest of the two groups are heterotrophs. Rest of the two groups are heterotrophs. Heterotrophs that they need to rely on other organisms, on other sources of food. They cannot there make their own food. They cannot make their own food. They have to rely upon other ones. Okay. So let's see. The rest of the two groups, animals and fungi. Animals and fungi both are what? Heterotrophs. So this is another classification. It means now we are successful in classifying the plants and the rest of the two marked groups, rest of the two animal. I'm not talking about the Protococcus yet. I'm just saying that the plants and animals and fungi, they all have been classified. Why? Because all are eukaryotes, so we cannot question their cellular setup. We cannot question their else. But we can now classify them on the basis of their mode of nutrition. Plants can make their own nutrients, so they are separated from the rest of the two. Why? Because the rest of the two are heterotrophs. They cannot make their own food, they rely on other sources. Is it understood now?
Yes.
Is it understood now?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Can you tell me what was the last thing I said?
You asked me if I understood what just happened, so I said yeah.
Oh, so now the next question is that how to categorize animals and fungi differently. Like animals are different and fungi are different. But we need to come up with a proper criteria that would make us separate animals from fungi. Okay, let's see. So I will write it again now. The mode of nutrition. According to the mode of nutrition, we have separated the plants with the rest of the two. Why the plants are autotrophs, so they are now separated from the rest of the groups. And the second category is heterotrophs, in which both groups can be adjusted, the animals and fungi. Animals and fungi. But they all are, see, suppose that what is common between both of these groups? The common thing between both of these groups are that they are eukaryotes. Then we separated them that the plants don't need to acquire their nutrition from different resources. They are independent, they can make their own food. So we differentiated them. Now, this feature is common between the rest of these two groups, but we still need to differentiate them. You know, how would we differentiate them? Animals have a mode of nutrition, no doubt heterotroph, that they have to uh, acquire their nutrients from different sources. They have to acquire their nutrients from different sources, but animals and fungi have a slightly different way of acquiring the nutrients, slightly different way. This feature is common. I would say that initially being eukaryotic was, then we separated them on the basis of autotroph and heterotroph. Now, being heterotroph is common between the two groups, but we can still differentiate them. How? Animals ingest the food. Animal do ingestion. What is the meaning of ingestion? Ingestion means eat your food, then digest it. When you see the animals, what do? They eat the food in bulk, they take it into their digestive system, and they just, and then they uh, drink, isn't it?
Yes.
First we eat the food, then we drink. But fungi have the more of nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition, that is absorption. And what does that mean? digest the food into small particles, then absorb it. Now, this is the difference. Like, there is no doubt that both of them are heterotrophs. Both of them are heterotrophs means that there is no doubt that they have different sources. They have different sources of food. They cannot make their own food. This is common between them, but the way of eating food is different. They first eat, then digest it. Fungi first digest it and then absorb it. Is it understood?
Yes.
So, if you focus now on the basis of different criteria, we have separated different groups. The first group that we separated was bacteria. And what was the criteria? The criteria to differentiate the bacteria. Can you tell me?
The bacteria compared to what? The eukaryote?
Yes.
A
The
different
bacteria,
domain of life?
yes, exactly. They have been categorized on the basis of different domain of life. Then the next domain is common between many other organisms. So what criteria did we define? You can say the criterion number two was mode of nutrition. This is the criterion number one. The criterion number two was mode of nutrition, how they acquire their. So the very first group we differentiated was plants. And on what basis we differentiated them?
What do you mean?
On what basis we differentiated the plants from rest of the two groups?
That they acquire their nutrients?
They acquire the nutrients, and what do the plants do? How do they acquire their nutrients?
Uh, Photosynthesis?
Yes, they are autotrophs. They don't depend on any other. They are autotrophs. They can easily make their food. They perform photosynthesis. So the plants have been separated. Now the rest of the two, we said they are heterotrophs, mean that they cannot make their own food. They have to obtain their food from other organisms. So now we said that they are heterotrophs. They are heterotrophs. Then we said that yes, they both are heterotrophs, but they are different in eating the food. Animals first eat, then digest. Fungi first digest the food, then absorb it. So we separated them. Now the first group was bacteria, the second group was plants. The third group that we differentiated were animals, and the fourth group that we differentiated were fungi. But there is a fifth group. Remember? Fifth group is something. Okay, now what criteria do we have left? Right now, we don't have any criteria. We don't have any criteria. You know what is the criteria to define this group? This group is made on the basis of poor understanding of newly discovered organisms. Poor understanding of newly discovered organisms. What does it mean? About the organisms, if an organism is discovered and we don't know that where to classify it, where do we put it first? We put it in Protoptist. That is why in Protoptist we have three different groups. If you see Protoptist, in Protoptists we have three different groups. Animals that are plant-like, like we discovered them, we are not yet able to classify them properly. Animals, the organisms that are plant-like, the organisms that are like they resemble the animals, but we are not yet confirmed whether to put them in animals or not. Then the third, the discovered organisms, which are fungi-like, they resemble fungi, but we are not confirmed yet. So we put them in protoctist. So this is the criteria of protoctist. We basically have made this group on the basis of poor understanding. Got it?
Yeah.
Now remember that the very first classification of domain. Domain is a group of least similar organisms. Okay. Now, now remember that in the modern days, in the modern days, we have a hierarchy of clusters. What is a hierarchy? Can you tell me what is a hierarchy?
Like a list, but like one category is higher than the other and goes in an order, like
Yes,
large.
an orderly list. An orderly list that the largest or the most important one comes first, and the least important one or more important one comes, depending upon the. Similarly, we have a hierarchy of classification on the basis of similarities and differences. So our very first group would be consisting of less similar and more different organisms. And we know what is that first group? That first group is domain. Less similar and more different organisms are categorized in the domain. And the last group, after many categories, the last group would be most similar and least different groups. Least different organisms. So our classification hierarchy starts from two. Then the next rank is called as kingdom. This is better. This is a group in which the organisms are more similar than the domain. Then phylum, then class, then order, then family, then and then these are the organisms. I'm sorry, these are the categories which we often call as the hierarchy. And remember that we are moving downwards, and as we move downward, we are moving towards more similarity until in the last group we know that we have 99% similarity. In every classification, this is true. Okay, so that is why we have a lot of classifications. Suppose that okay, I'll come back to this topic again, but first, in classification, we have another problem, and that is naming the organism. Naming the organism. This is another problem that we face. And this problem basically is quite a big one. Why? Because the scientist, basically, who is considered to be an inventor of the classification system, was named as Carlos Linnaeus. This particular scientist was a botanist, and uh, he started having a problem. You know that we write the scientific papers, research papers.
Yeah.
When we write the scientific papers or research papers, We need to tell the other people that on what organism we are doing our research. So in science or in scientific papers, we cannot use the common name. Cannot use the common name. Why? Because you know that the one organism is named differently in all different languages. There is Persian language, there is English, there is Arabic, there is Urdu, there is Hindi language, there is like Spanish language, there is Dutch language. Even there are multiple names of things in the British English and American English. So you
Yeah,
cannot use common names. Now suppose that you have one name, onion. You cannot even if I name three languages, you cannot even know that what you are talking about. English, onion. Urdu, there is different name. And in Punjabi, there is different. So it means that there must be a common language, must be a common nomenclature, a common naming system. And every naming system is called as nomenclature. Whatever you in whatever the branch you use this approach, in whatever the branch you use this approach, it is nomenclature. So he came with the nomenclature. Suppose he named potato as Solanum tuberosa. Tuberosa. Then the name of onion was Allium cepa. Allium cepa. No, initially, hold on. Initially, when he started naming the organisms, he only chose one name per organism. Then there were some problems. There were some problems in understanding. And what were the problems? The problem were that he had to name, he had to give two names to each organism. Not he had to because he died, I guess, at that time. The scientists that came after, they had to name they have to give two names per organism, and they did not give any unique name. They used their genus and species name as their scientific name. If you see, the last two groups of classification are genus and species. So they use their genus and species name as their naming standard. So the genus name was considered to be a surname, and you know that in Western countries, the surname is the more important one rather than your own. Like,
yeah.
what is your complete? What is your complete name?
Are you asking me? Like
What is your complete name?
Darvia is my surname.
So, Darvivia.
A.
So they would never call you Mr. Hassan. They would always call you Mr. Darvia.
Yeah,
So similarly, my name you can read over there, Hanan Abdul Halik. So they would always call me Mr. Halik.
yeah,
Similarly, that same rule they applied here in this nomenclature. That was they first mentioned the surname, and then they With each surname, they they mentioned a specific name or species. So the genus name and the species name would be the criteria of naming the organism, or you can say it would be the criteria of taking names. Suppose that uh, I classify the human, and the genus of human is Homo. So I would write Homo, and the species name of human is sapien. So I would write Homo sapien for human. And I can also write it in this way, H sapien. Similarly, there is another name for dog, Canis familiaris. Canis familiaris. Or you can also write it C familiaris. This is another way. Um, the cow is called as Bos taurus. So these are different names. And similarly, um, there are many plants. As I have said, the a name of onion is Adium cepa. Many different names are there. So the main thing about the main thing about this whole phenomenon is that they devised a system that would not bother different organs, the different scientists. So this is now considered to be a common language of the whole world scientist, or whole of the a common language of the whole world biologists. Clear? Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Next is yes, rules of writing the scientific. Now these rules are used in the papers. These rules are used. First rule of writing the name. Rule of writing. Number one, the genus name always be written with first capital alphabet. First capital alphabet. Just like a common, just like a proper noun. What are the examples of proper noun? Noun. Our names are examples of proper noun. Like uh, if my name would be written, I would say my first letter would be capital. Your first letter would be capital. So the genus would always be written, the genus name would always be written in the capital alphabet. Suppose this is the sentence in which Homo sapien, you have to write Homo sapien. So you would always write Homo like this. So the very first rule is the genus name always be written with first capital. Number two, the species name would always have small first letter. Always remember like this. Third, in writing, in writing, in writing, the scientific names must be underlined, must be underlined, while In computer type, they must be they must be italics. So these are the three rules you need to remember always they would be used. The first letter of genus would always be capital. The first letter of species name would always be small. And if you are writing the name, you have to underline it. And if you are typing the name, you have to make it italic. That is what we are supposed to be following. This is the okay. Coming back to the classification. Coming back to the classification, we have basically, if we see our syllabus, then we often study five different kingdoms. Five kingdoms. And what are those kingdoms? These are basically the number one, bacteria, or let me name them. We know that kingdoms are one of those groups in which these similarity exists. First is Monera. Monera is the name for the kingdom of bacteria. Then the next group is Protoctista. Then plants, then fungi, then animals. So these are the different. Then we would be studying about the phylum, then class, then order, then family, then genus, and then species. But remember that we would be studying some groups, but not more than the class level. Some of the groups we will study, but not more than the class level. And for some of them, we have read about their names, their specific names. So this naming system, since we are giving them two names, now this system is not only called as normal, it is called as binomial. Binomial means two name naming. Binomial nomenclature means two naming system. A system in which we give two names to the organic. So that is about the binomial. Are the things understood?
Yeah, so basically you're saying the H sapien mean is binomial nomenclature.
No. Uh, okay, no, basically not. I'm saying that hate sapient typically means, is my voice smooth?
Yeah,
Uh, turn off the camera. Okay, fine. So, hate sapient does not mean binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature is a naming system in which we give the human two names. We give the human two names, and the name of the human is Homo sapien. So you can say that H sapien or Homo sapien is an example of binomial nomenclature,
yeah,
but it
that's what
is
I meant. Not is binomial nomenclature. I
yes,
meant is an example of binomial.
it is an example of binomial nomenclature. Is it the time?
Yeah,
All right. Okay. So I'm stopping the recording. Was the problem managed after that? Like specific time? Was
yeah,
the
yeah.
voice
It's fine now.
good? All right. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum.